The luxury starliner, Celestial Harbor, drifted through the starlit lanes of the Orion Passage, its windows glowing like a floating palace made of warm lanterns and polished chrome. Thousands of passengers moved through its grand atriums. Tourists, merchants, diplomats, thrill seekers, laughing, bargaining, relaxing under the artificial sun. None of them realized a predator was watching. And not just any predator. Rav'kor of the Khazari hunting clans stood perfectly still at the edge of the promenade, drawing quiet, steady breaths. His species did not twitch. They did not fidget. They did not blink unless necessary. Every movement was chosen like a blade strike. 8 feet tall, muscles like compressed cables, for obsidian claws on each hand, sharp enough to slice starship insulation. Predators from 1,000 worlds had challenged the Khazari over the centuries. Predators from 1,000 worlds had died trying. Rav'kor scanned the crowd with the kind of patient confidence only apex killers possessed. His heartbeat was slow, focused, calm. Hunting aboard a cruise liner was technically illegal, but Khazari tradition had a simple philosophy about laws. If you're strong enough to ignore them, they don't apply to you. His eyes moved over the crowd. A trio of feathered Yurav merchants, fluttery, nervous, vulnerable, tempting but too fragile. They panicked too quickly. A cluster of armored Vordani soldiers, strong, but predictable, too rigid. Rav'kor hated prey that died following a rulebook. A glittering Zephite noble. Dangerous illusions, yes, but his kind always telegraphed their fear. And fear was boring when it smelled that loud. So far, nothing worthy. Nothing that stirred the old instinct in his chest. Then, a flicker, a shape, a presence. Rav'kor's gaze froze mid-scan. His breath paused. Something in the air shifted like static before a lightning strike. Across the promenade sat a tiny creature. Soft, pink, utterly exposed. It had no claws, no natural armor, no spines, no mandibles. It wore simple travel clothes, dark jacket, worn boots, an old canvas backpack that probably smelled like laundry detergent and optimism. The being was curled comfortably in a corner seat, one leg crossed over the other, reading a book while sipping something in a paper cup. A paper cup, on a ship full of hardened alien veterans. Rav'kor tilted his head. What was this thing? It looked breakable, flimsy, like a creature evolved for warm blankets and gentle sunsets. He focused on the book. The alien symbols were translated automatically through the Starliner's reader field. A practical guide to surviving hostile environments. The contradiction almost made him snort. This fragile little scrap of biology thought it needed help surviving? Perfect. A warm-up hunt before choosing his real target. Rav'kor began moving. Slow, steady steps. Silent. Every instinct in his body lined up like stars falling into orbit. He could already imagine the quick takedown, the surprise, the brief struggle. But then the creature looked up. Not startled, not frightened, not confused. It smiled. And the smile wasn't defensive or nervous. It was warm, almost bright, like it actually recognized him and was happy about it. The creature raised a hand and waved him over. Waved. At him. Rav'kor faltered. Predators of his rank did not falter. He approached anyway, slowly, uncertain, thrown off balance by something he couldn't name. As he drew closer, he noticed the creature's eyes. Bright, alert, curious. Too curious. Hey there, the creature said cheerfully, as if greeting an old neighbor. Didn't mean to stare. You just move like someone who knows what they're doing. Rav'kor froze mid-step. The voice. Warm. Friendly. No fear. This wasn't prey behavior. The creature extended a hand. Name's Elias. Human, if that helps. Human. The word pinged something distant in Rav'kor's memory. Half-ignored reports, strange rumors, whispers from hunters who rarely whispered. The galaxy had no unified opinion on humans, which was strange in itself. Some said they were harmless. Some said they were unpredictable. Some said they were wrong. But Rav'kor had never seen one up close. He didn't shake the offer hand, of course not. Khazari tradition considered handshakes unnecessary physical vulnerability. But he lowered himself slightly into a crouch, studying the human from closer range. Elias didn't flinch, didn't pull back. Instead, he grinned wider. "You're Khazari, right?" he asked casually. "Always wanted to meet one. You folks have incredible posture. Serious spine discipline." Rav'kor blinked once. Slowly, a predator's blink. "You are not afraid." "Should I be?" Elias replied, absolutely sincere. "You're huge, sure, but you seem polite." "Polite?" Rav'kor nearly choked. Polite? He had killed 12 armed raiders before breakfast last week. Yet the human looked at him with the calm ease of someone sitting beside a golden retriever, not a nightmare carved from bone and tradition. Rav'kor's instincts, usually flawless, started glitching like a broken navigation unit. Something about this human was wrong. Not physically, not visually, emotionally. Where was the fear? Where was the prey tension? He leaned closer. His voice dropped to a low rumble. "Human, do you understand what I am?" Elias shrugged. "A guy waiting for a better conversation topic?" Rav'kor's claws flexed involuntarily. Prey did not tease predators. Not unless they had a death wish. Not unless. A sudden blur of movement approached. A trembling, gelatinous form. A flint, wide, quivering eyes. Hands shaking. Voice trembling. "Rav'kor, we need to talk privately." The Flynn didn't even look at Elias. It couldn't. It was too busy shaking like a bag of loose organs. Elias lifted his cup politely. "I'll just be right here. Gotta finish this chapter about improvised shelters anyway." Rav'kor followed the Flynn to a quiet corner. The moment they were out of earshot, the Flynn hissed. "Are you out of your mind? That's a human." Rav'kor frowned. "Yes." "You can't hunt that," the Flynn squeaked. "Nobody hunts humans." Rav'kor scoffed softly. "It is small, weak, harmless." The Flynn went pale. Pale for a Flynn meant nearly transparent. "You fool," it whispered. "Humans domesticated their planet's apex predators. They tamed creatures that could swallow them whole. They wrestle monsters for sport. They form friendships with things that should have eaten them." Rav'kor felt a cold, sinking sensation, one he had never felt in his entire life. A sensation dangerously close to doubt. The Flynn grabbed his arm. "Do not provoke it. Do not threaten it. Do not hunt it. Humans do not react normally." Rav'kor's eyes narrowed. "What do they react with?" The Flynn grabbed his arm. "Do not provoke it. Do not threaten it. Do not hunt it. Humans do not react normally." Rav'kor's eyes narrowed. "What do they react with?" The Flynn swallowed hard. "Adaptation. Tenacity. Persistence. They do not stop. Ever." Rav'kor looked back toward the human. Elias waved cheerfully. That smile. Why did it feel like a warning disguised as kindness? Why did it feel dangerous? Rav'kor's instincts finally whispered the truth he least expected. This wasn't prey. This was something else entirely. He inhaled slowly, deeply, and for the first time in his life. A predator hesitated. Rav'kor had faced beasts that roared loud enough to shake mountain stone. He had fought in arenas where the audience wagered which limb he would lose first. He had stared into the eyes of apex predators with jaws wide enough to fit his torso. None of that rattled him. But walking back toward the small human with a warm smile, that rattled him. Elias looked up from his book the moment Rav'kor returned. Bright-eyed, relaxed, legs crossed like someone lounging in a park on a mild spring day, rather than aboard a ship containing a very confused apex killer. "Everything okay?" the human asked, tapping a finger on his page rhythmically. Rav'kor opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. The Flynn was mistaken. "It is prone to fear." Elias chuckled lightly. "You do look like the kind of guy who accidentally scares people by existing." The confidence, the casual tone. Rav'kor wasn't sure if he admired it or feared it, or both. He sank down across from the human, his massive frame folding with the quiet elegance of a creature built for ambush. Elias pushed over a small bowl of something multicolored. "Trail mix?" Elias asked. "Warning, it creates happiness. Side effects include crunching." Rav'kor stared at the offering as if it were a trap. "What is it?" "A snack," Elias said simply, popping a handful into his own mouth. Humans invented snacks to fill the emotional void between meals. Rav'kor slowly, carefully picked up a single raisin. He sniffed it, nibbled the edge. It was sweet, unexpectedly sweet. He placed the raisin down again. That was acceptable. Elias laughed, a warm sound that made several nearby aliens shift uneasily. The Zephite noble from earlier glittered nervously and floated away, refusing to look in their direction. Rav'kor noticed. Everyone was avoiding them. Avoiding Elias. But why? He leaned forward slightly, voice low. You are not afraid of me. Elias raised a brow. Should I be? Rav'kor's confusion deepened. How did one answer that question without sounding threatening or insecure? You are small, Rav'kor said carefully. Compact, Elias corrected, nodding like he was accepting a compliment. You are unarmored. Close count, Elias said, tugging at his jacket. Thin layer, but emotionally supportive. You are fragile. Elias shrugged. Sure. Bones break, skin tears, feelings get hurt. The usual. Rav'kor blinked. No, this was wrong. No prey was this accepting of its own fragility. Elias leaned back, crossing his arms. You know, he said, most species think humans are weak. Kind of adorable, honestly. Rav'kor tilted his head. Adorable? Yeah. Cute little soft creatures who somehow haven't gone extinct yet. We get that a lot. Rav'kor had to ask, why haven't you? Elias smiled wider. Not a big smile, just a small, knowing curve of the mouth. A smile that felt like it contained secrets wrapped in warnings. Because we don't stay weak. Rav'kor felt something cold flicker through his chest. Explain. Well, Elias said, holding up his hand and ticking off fingers, humans have this annoying habit of surviving everything thrown at them. He held up one finger. Disasters? We rebuild. Another. Predators? We punch above our weight class. Another. Challenge something we love? Oh boy, that's when things get messy. Rav'kor frowned. What does that mean? Elias leaned forward slightly, eyes bright, but voice almost gentle. It means you don't want humans motivated. For the first time in Rav'kor's life, someone smaller than him made his throat tighten. He didn't know why. Elias wasn't threatening. The human didn't raise his voice, didn't bare teeth, didn't posture. He simply stated facts as if they were the weather. Rav'kor forced himself to keep the conversation steady. So, what do humans do when they're motivated? Elias's answer was simple. We try again. Harder. Rav'kor almost stood upright then. Not out of fear, but out of instinct. An instinct that whispered danger in a polite, well-meaning tone. The human turned the page casually. Don't worry, Elias added. I'm off duty. Here to relax, not to start an interstellar incident. Relax. Relax? This creature's relaxed state was enough to make other aliens flee the area. Rav'kor's claws flexed unconsciously. Human, he said, voice low. What were you trained for? Elias shrugged lightly. Diplomacy. Rav'kor blinked. Diplomacy? He had expected warrior, assassin, predator, something with violence stitched into the title. Elias continued. Used to do Marines work. Before that, wilderness rescue. Hobby-wise, I wrestle with things I shouldn't wrestle with. Long story. Wilderness rescue. Marines. Recreational wrestling. Recreational? Rav'kor felt a strange sensation. Something unfamiliar. Something uncomfortable. Why do you fight dangerous creatures? He asked carefully. Elias looked at him like the answer was obvious. Because someone has to help them. Rav'kor stared. Not to conquer. Not to dominate. Not to prove superiority. To help them? Elias grinned at his stunned expression. Humans like challenges. Sometimes we mistake dangerous creature for future best friend. Rav'kor felt an almost physical reaction, like someone had pushed ice water through his veins. Future best friend? Yeah, Elias said brightly. It's kind of our thing. Befriend the unfriendable. Tame the untamable. Hug the unhuggable. Rav'kor did not know what a hug was, but based on context and tone, it sounded horrifying. He tried to recenter himself. He was Rav'kor, Apex, Master Hunter, terror of the Koresh Nebula. He would not be intimidated by a creature who offered raisins. Elias looked around the emptying promenade. You notice how quiet it's gotten? he asked softly. Rav'kor's eyes scanned the deck. Passengers were edging out of sight. Staff were distancing themselves. Even cleaning drones were taking alternate routes. Yes, Rav'kor murmured. They avoid us. Elias corrected gently. They avoid me. Rav'kor felt his chest tighten. Why? Elias didn't answer for a moment. He sipped his drink, staring thoughtfully at the star-filled windows. You ever seen a fire, he said at last, that burns warm and beautiful? But everyone knows if it spreads, it burns everything it touches. Rav'kor nodded once. That's humans, Elias said softly. We're warm, friendly, curious. But when pushed, he set his cup down. The sound was quiet, too quiet, like the moment before a blade drops. We burn. Rav'kor felt something primal shift inside him. The Flynn's words, the rumors, the strange calm of the human. It all lined up like pieces of a puzzle that spelled out one chilling message. Humans were never harmless. Elias tapped the book closed. Anyway, he said cheerfully, completely destroying the tension he'd just built. I'm starving. Want to grab food? You look like you could use something other than existential terror. Rav'kor stared at him. The human smiled, and Rav'kor understood something completely, absolutely, terrifyingly clear. This smile was not prey behavior. This smile belonged to a creature that feared nothing, and wondered why others did. The dining hall of the Celestial Harbor should have been loud. Crowded tables, clinking utensils, chattering tourists, the usual chaos of beings trying to enjoy food designed for 50 different digestive systems. But as Rav'kor followed Elias inside, the noise dimmed, shifted, rearranged itself around the human like the universe wanted distance. Aliens moved tables. Servers suddenly became busy elsewhere. A trio of armored Dranth warriors stared at Elias, recognized him as human, then immediately pretended to study the dessert display with reverent intensity. Rav'kor felt the silence narrowing around them like an invisible wall. Elias didn't seem to notice. He sat at a table near the window, as casual as if walking into a predator's den was normal. Rav'kor took the seat opposite him, the chair creaking under his massive weight. A small, metallic servobot rolled up with jittery movements. Its holographic display flickered nervously. Hello, honored guests. Welcome. Menu interface loading. Please do not harm this unit. Elias smiled gently. Buddy, relax. We're here to eat, not traumatize you. The robot nearly short-circuited from relief. Rav'kor watched this unfold, utterly bewildered. Was the robot afraid of Elias? He leaned forward. Human, he rumbled. Why do they react this way to your presence? Elias shrugged lightly. Cultural misunderstandings, rumors, exaggerated stories. You know how it is. But Rav'kor finally realized. No, he did not know how it was. Other species feared Rav'kor because he had earned a reputation. Humans? Humans seemed feared because the universe itself couldn't figure them out. Elias tapped a menu on the holoscreen. Ooh, they've got fried nebula shrimp. Want some? Rav'kor ignored the question. He stared at the human long enough for Elias to put the menu down. Okay, Elias said. Talk. You are not normal. Rav'kor shot him a pointed look. Not for prey. Not for any species. Elias snorted. Oh no, Rav. I hate to break it to you, but humans are extremely normal for humans. Normal? Rav'kor's claws curled around the table edge. He forced himself not to splinter the metal. You wrestle dangerous animals. Only if they started, Elias corrected. You seek danger. Sometimes danger needs friends, Elias said casually. You smile at predators. Elias grinned wider. I like learning. And you're interesting. Interesting. Rav'kor had never heard someone describe him that way. Not prey, not predator, not fellow warrior. Interesting. Before he could answer, a shimmering crystal form slid into the seat at Rav'kor's left. A Zephite noble. Not just any noble. Lord Ferrix Illuminator IX, one of the most annoyingly elegant beings in the sector. His body refracted light into cascading rainbow patterns, but now those colors were muted, like fear had dimmed them. Rav'kor, Ferrix whispered urgently. Move away from the human. Elias blinked. Hello to you too. Ferrix didn't look at him. He didn't dare. The Zephite leaned closer to Rav'kor, lowering his voice. You brought a human into a shared eating environment without warning? Are you trying to cause a diplomatic crisis? Rav'kor's mandibles tightened. What is the meaning of this? Ferrix looked around the room nervously before answering. Humans, he whispered, have a history. With what? Elias asked cheerfully. Ferrix's colors flickered. Everything. He turned back to Rav'kor. I know what you're thinking. You believe the human is harmless. Soft. Fragile. That was my initial assessment, Rav'kor admitted. That assessment, Ferrix said gravely, is how wars start. Elias raised a hand. Okay, I feel like I should defend my species here. Ferrix talked, right over him. Do you know their planetary history? Their culture? Their evolutionary background? Humans come from a world where everything tries to kill them. Plants, animals, terrain, weather. They evolved like stubborn weeds in a garden of misery. Elias nodded thoughtfully. He's not wrong. Rav'kor blinked. Your world is hostile? Elias laughed. Hostile? Rav, our planet is an open-world survival game with no tutorial. Ferrix shivered dramatically. They adapt to everything. You cut off their food, they eat something else. You block their path, they climb over it. They get injured, they get back up. And if they can't get back up, they crawl. Elias smiled proudly. Persistence hunting, baby. Rav'kor stared at him. Ferrix continued. Do you know how many species humans have tamed? Not through domination. Through friendship. Elias saluted with a fry. We're very friendly. Rav'kor swallowed slowly. He could hear echoes of the Flynn's warning now, merging with Ferrix's. Humans did not hunt with teeth. They hunted with bonding. Before Rav'kor could speak, there was a sudden thump as another alien collapsed into a chair. One of the armored Dranth warriors, panting heavily. His plates were trembling. I saw the human, he gasped. Up close. Rav'kor stiffened. And it smiled at me. The Dranth looked seconds from fainting. Elias blinked. I was being polite. Polite, the Dranth cried. Humans show their teeth as a friendly gesture. What kind of creature does that? Elias shrugged. Teeth are practical. Why hide them? The Dranth wheezed. Ferrix placed a crystal hand on Rav'kor's arm. Listen to me, Hunter. Humans are not predators. Humans are not prey. Humans are the thing evolution made when it got bored of rules. Elias raised his cup. Cheers to that. The Dranth leaned forward, whispering frantically. I once saw a human charge in a gunfire. Gunfire? Why? Because their friend was in danger. Rav'kor blinked. You moved into active weapon fire for a companion? Elias shrugged. He owed me 5 credits. Rav'kor's predator brain broke a little. Ferrix added, humans weaponize kindness. They will help you, protect you, feed you, talk to you, share stories, laugh with you, until you forget they're dangerous. And then what? Rav'kor asked quietly. Ferrix looked him dead on. Then, Rav'kor, they adopt you. The table went silent. Adopt? Adopt? Rav'kor stared at Elias. You adopt other species? Elias frowned. We prefer the term make friends with aggressively positive enthusiasm. Rav'kor had no idea how to process that. Before he could even attempt it, the doors of the dining hall burst open. A small group of Rigelian traders stood frozen in the doorway, staring at Elias like he was a bomb. The leader hissed, Is the human smiling? Elias waved cheerfully. Half the group fainted. Rav'kor watched it all unfold with a growing sense of horror. This universe feared nothing, except this one species, this one human, and yet the human didn't seem to know it. Or maybe he did, and didn't care. Rav'kor leaned close, voice barely a whisper. Human, Elias, tell me the truth. Elias looked up. A long moment passed. Then he answered softly, Rav, humans don't start trouble. We don't pick fights. But if a fight finds us, he tapped the table. We finish it. Rav'kor felt something inside him crack. A realization that crept into his bones like cold starlight. Hunters fear what they do not understand. Predators fear what they cannot overpower. But this was something new. Rav'kor had not found prey. He had found a force of nature smiling at him over a bowl of trail mix. For the first time in his life, he understood what fear felt like, not for himself, but for whoever made the mistake of giving this human a reason to fight. For the first time in his life, Rav'kor, the apex of the Khazari hunting clans, walked beside someone smaller than him and felt like he was escorting a sleeping supernova. The dining hall behind them buzzed with frantic whispers as he and Elias exited. Doors slid shut. Silence fell like a weighted curtain. Rav'kor tried to steady his breathing, not because he feared death. No, this was something else. A feeling older, deeper, carved into the bones of every creature smart enough to run from fire. Humans burned politely. Elias walked ahead, humming a cheerful tune, hands in pockets, as if he hadn't just sent half the dining hall into existential terror. The human finally stopped near a panoramic window overlooking the ship's fusion trails. Stars streaked by like white fire. Beautiful, isn't it? Elias said softly. Rav'kor wasn't looking at the stars. He was looking at him. How long? Rav'kor began carefully. Have humans been like this? Like what? Elias tilted his head. Rav'kor struggled for the words. Friendly, he said, but also catastrophically dangerous. Elias thought for a moment. Ever since we figured out fire doesn't have to kill you if you hold it carefully. Rav'kor absorbed that in silence. Behind them, the doors hissed open. Ferrix the Zephite rushed in, his crystalline form flickering with alarm. Rav'kor, we have a problem. Rav'kor straightened immediately. Explain. Ferrix pointed a trembling crystal hand. At him, the human. He has been selected for the ship's safety demonstration event. Elias blinked. The what? Ferrix's colors paled dramatically. The event where we test survival scenarios for entertainment. Dangerous scenarios. Scenarios humans should never participate in because they will, he flickered rapidly, outsurvive the simulations and break something important. Elias brightened. Ooh, a challenge? Both Rav'kor and Ferrix shouted at the same time. No, but it was too late. A chime echoed across the promenade. A cheerful voice announced, Passenger Elias Woods, please report to the danger simulation deck. Your voluntary demonstration is about to begin. Elias' eyes practically sparkled. Rav, you hear that? Voluntary. Ferrix groaned. Humans volunteer for danger. Why do humans volunteer for danger? Tradition, Elias said casually. Rav'kor's instincts ignited. Something deep in him said, follow, protect, contain the human. Before the universe pays for your mistake. He stepped in front of Elias. You must not go. Elias raised a brow. Afraid I'll get hurt? No, Rav'kor said honestly. Afraid everything else will. Elias laughed, so hard he nearly dropped his trail mix bag. But he still followed the glowing walkway toward the danger deck. The danger simulation deck. The room looked like a stadium designed by someone who thought safety meant bigger explosions. A holographic canyon stretched across the chamber. Simulated razor wolves prowled its edges. A collapsing bridge hovered over a lava pit. Storm clouds rumbled overhead, ready to unleash electromagnetic lightning. A small crowd had gathered to watch. Mostly aliens who'd heard a human was participating. Some were curious, some excited, most terrified. The event coordinator, a tiny, bird-like chirper, flapped up to them, eyes wide with unfiltered panic. You cannot be the human, it chirped at Elias. Humans break simulations. It took us 3 weeks to fix the last one. Elias crouched down to eye level with the chirper. I'll be gentle. The chirper screamed and fainted. Rav'kor pinched the bridge of his nose. Human, please. Do not do this. Elias gave him a reassuring pat on the arm. An act so bold Rav'kor nearly flinched. I'll be fine, Rav. Relax. I've done worse with less. The lights dimmed. A voice boomed. Simulation start. The first test, the chasm. A shimmering bridge appeared. Thunder cracked. Wind roared. Elias stepped onto the collapsing platform with the casual confidence of someone walking across a parking lot. The structure shook split, and Elias simply jumped, landed on a swinging beam, used momentum to flip himself onto the far ledge, and waved at the audience like he was greeting fans at a baseball game. The crowd gasped. Rav'kor grabbed a railing to steady himself. That, he whispered, should not have been possible. Well, Ferrix muttered, he's human. The second test, the razor wolves. A pack of metallic beasts emerged, glowing red eyes scanning for prey. Elias crouched, extended a hand, and spoke softly. Hey there, buddies, who's a good simulated apex predator? The wolves hesitated, tilted their heads. Then, the largest one stepped forward and nudged Elias' hand. The others followed. Elias scratched their simulated ears. Rav'kor dropped to a knee. He just domesticated them, he breathed. He domesticated digital predators. Ferrix whispered, this is why humans cannot be allowed near holograms. The final test, the storm core. Lightning cracked around a swirling vortex. Energy pulses surged. It was meant to test stamina, pain tolerance, and survival instinct. Elias rolled his shoulders. Oh good, he said. Cardio. He sprinted directly into the cyclone. Bolt struck him. Wind slammed into him. The ground shook, and Elias pushed through it, teeth gritted, muscles straining, yelling something that sounded suspiciously like a motivational gym speech. He reached the center, grabbed the glowing core, and lifted it above his head like a trophy. The entire simulation froze. Everything went silent. A moment later, the system AI said in a shaking voice, simulation defeated. Manual reboot required. The aftermath. The audience backed away. Way away. Some ran. Elias walked out of the broken simulation chamber like a man returning from a jog. He tossed the core to the floor. It flickered sadly. Well, he said, that was fun. What's next? Rav'kor couldn't speak. His throat locked. His instinct screamed. He had hunted creatures across 9 systems. But nothing compared to this. You, Rav'kor whispered hoarsely. You are not prey. Elias blinked, confused. Obviously, you are not predator. Elias shrugged. Sometimes. Only on weekends. Rav'kor stared at him. Elias waited patiently. Finally, Rav'kor sank to one knee. A gesture of acknowledgement. Not submission. Respect. You, Rav'kor said softly, are apex of a different kind. Elias looked stunned for once. Then he smiled warmly. Rav, he said, you don't have to kneel. We're friends. Rav'kor stiffened. Friends. The word hit him like a meteor. Ferrix choked a little. Oh no, he's been adopted. Elias patted Rav'kor's massive arm. Come on, there's a stargazing event in an hour. I want to hear about your homeworld. Rav'kor stood, towering over him, but for the first time not as a hunter, not as a threat, but as a chosen companion. You wish to learn about my world? Rav'kor asked. Of course, Elias said simply. That's what friends do. Rav'kor felt something shift inside him. Fear didn't disappear. It simply changed shape, into loyalty. If we are friends, Rav'kor said slowly, then I will protect you. Elias laughed and shook his head. Rav, trust me. He looked up, eyes bright, smile warm. I'm the one protecting you. Epilogue. Message home. Later that night, in the privacy of his cabin, Rav'kor activated the secure channel to the Khazari High Command. He spoke slowly, choosing every word like he was handling explosives. Update to species threat assessment. Humans are not prey. Humans are not predators. Humans are something new. He paused. Approach with caution. If a human smiles at you, do not assume safety. You may already belong to them. He hesitated before the final line. And if one names you friend, accept your fate. You will not escape, but you will not want to. He sent the message. Then, hearing a knock on the door, he opened it to find Elias holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. Ready for stargazing? Elias asked. Rav'kor took a mug carefully. Yes, he said quietly. Friend. And somewhere in the stars, a new legend took shape. The day an apex predator met a human and backed away.